You know who you should be jealous of? You should be jealous of guys the same age as you that are balder than you and they're confident. That's who you should be jealous of. You shouldn't be jealous of guys who have better hair than you, even if they're confident. You shouldn't be jealous of those guys. You should be jealous of the guy who's already lost his hair or losing his hair at a higher rate than you, but that is confident. That is your biggest threat, and that is your competition. I just want to be very upfront about that. Take that from a guy who has always been of average looks. You know, I've never been ugly. I've never been the guy that was known specifically for being the good-looking guy. And so therefore, and I think a lot of guys are that way, kind of in the middle range. I bet a lot of human beings are that way. We could probably say the same thing about females as well. Most people are going to be somewhere in that middle range. Okay? 4 on a bad day, 7 on a good day, right? Okay? So I think that's where most people are. So for me, being an average looking guy and having a hairline that started to go up, but even now that no one really notices, even when I remove all the hair and it makes it very obvious still. But it was a matter of, I always knew who I was competing against wasn't even the guys that were better looking than me. Okay? I knew that my competition in high school or college or whatever was never the guys who were up here. I'm 5'9", so this is indicating that if you're 6 foot tall, your head isn't off camera here. I was never jealous of the guys that were taller than me. I was never jealous of guys who had lower foreheads, hairlines or whatever, and better hair. Never jealous of them. I wasn't even jealous of the guys who were really smart and therefore basically had their whole career planned out on how they'd always make a lot of money. I was never jealous of all those people. Those are superficial reasons to be jealous of other guys anyway, as far as competing, as far as they would get the girl and I wouldn't. That was never it. For me, I always knew that my main competition was any guy who was more confident than I was. And see, that's where it gets a little bit murky, because I understand that at some point you can become so confident that it almost looks like you're desperate and you're not really confident. Like Donald Trump, I'm not a political guy. I'm not saying either way. I'm just saying when that is your confidence and you're not able to empathize with regular human beings, that's not even confidence anymore. It's a matter of being very confident in yourself, yet still having that level of being humble. I think, and they can come together quite perfectly. And I'm just going to tell you, in my high school and college years, that was never me. I never had self-esteem issues, never. But I was never the most confident. If I were to rate myself on a confidence scale in high school and college, maybe I was a 6.5. Maybe a 7. But there were other guys who maybe had less of those things that I just mentioned. Maybe they had higher foreheads that were already starting to recede. Maybe they were even shorter than me. Maybe they had no real clear plan on how they're going to make all this money as a lawyer or whatever it is. But they were more confident than me. And I always knew that was my competition. And I know this story is going to mean nothing to you. I'm going to tell you this story anyway. It means nothing to you. Okay? But I'm thinking back, and I've probably told this story before, but it's been a while. I remember in college, at the time, this is before I met my wife, years before I met my wife, I think I was like 19. And there was this one girl who immediately would just shut down the room. Like, all guys would just, that's what would happen if she walked anywhere within sight. That's what would happen. Just, that you'd be talking about, that's the effect she had. And so I was able to watch other guys try to ask her out or try to even become friends with her to get to the point where they could even, try to ask her out or whatever. And I would see all these guys with perfect looks, the perfect jaw, muscles, hair, everything was perfect looking about these guys. she didn't go after any of them. She didn't care about any of those guys. You know who she went after? A guy who was a little bit older than the rest of us. A guy who was a Norwood 5, and he was shorter than me. A guy who was, I think, 5'6", and she was kind of tall, so she was like the same height as him. But I mean, he was losing hair on top, even though he was in his early 20s. But still, he was for all practical purposes, he was bald. And he didn't even shave it all the way down to the skin like I would. For me, I guess even if I was completely bald, I probably wouldn't do the razor. I'd still just do the 0 because I'm too low maintenance and that's all I do. But my point is, he didn't even do that. So you could see that he was losing his hair. He wasn't a tall guy, but man, was he confident. He was so confident, and not in a cocky way, not in an annoying way, not in a way that anyone would think, man, he's full of himself. But you could just tell this guy was confident. So, yes, they ended up dating. They've been married for a long time. But that's just one particular story. So many stories I know are that way, where the bald guy gets the girl because he's more confident. And I always knew that. I always knew if you're trying to compete with other guys on a look scale, then you're a girl. Yeah, I did just say that. Girls compete with each other on looks because guys are the one that are obsessed with girls' looks. Girls are not obsessed with guys' looks. And those of us who know that have the advantage that the good-looking guys often don't have. So that's why I'm telling you, you should be jealous of guys who are balder than you, maybe even shorter than you. Maybe they even have a higher voice, I don't know. But if they're more confident than you, then I say they're your biggest competition.